Please invite the representatives from the administration and deputations to join us now. Let us welcome the deputations and administration to the meeting. Our presence for this meeting from the administration, we have Mr. Chen Chi-ming, Deputy Secretary from the Development Bureau, Mr. Ricky Lau, Chief Assistant Secretary, and Mr. George Law, Assistant Secretary. From the DFJ, Mr. Sunny Chen, a Senior Assistant Law Draftsman. Representatives from deputations, if you need simultaneous interpretation, please use the earpiece and tune in to channel 0 for floor, channel 1 for Cantonese, channel 2 for English, and channel 3 for Putonghua. 8 deputations will speak today on the bill. Each deputation will have 4 minutes to speak. May I remind you that your submissions and remarks will not be protected by the Electoral Powers and Privileges Ordinance. And may I remind those who are in the public gallery that we have in the relevant guideline various security measures. The guidelines were sent to members in our invitation and is also tabled. And if need be, you may seek a copy from the security staff present. I'll first invite Mr. Chow Luen Kuan, Chairman of the Hong Kong Construction Industry Employees General Union, to speak first. Thank you, Chairman. The registration would impact on 300,000 workers, their livelihood and rice bowls at stake, and my association has a membership of 24,000. Well, in 2007, we were involved in the legislative amendment exercise. There were over 100 consultation forums held, and the administration came to our union to consult a number of times. While we're speaking on the bill, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Security Bureau and the relevant government officials for their professionalism displayed in the exercise. The amendment bill is very important to senior workers. Over half of our 300,000 workers are over 50 years old. If we rely on tests for master skills, it may not be fair to all workers. So we want grandfathering. Well, there was a similar approach adopted for EMS. So then, in stage 2 implementation of the bill, the livelihood of workers would not be affected. We set a lot of store by this issue. With the change of times, well, in the past there was registration of skills or trade divisions. But now things are different, such as partition of ceilings. There may be the need for carpentry skills. So we want registration to be on the basis of skills rather than trade, so that workers can be multi-skilled. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Next, Mr. Lawrence, President of the Hong Kong Construction Subcontractors Association. Thank you, Chairman, for inviting us to express our views here. Now, just now, Mr. Chow has mentioned that the preparation period for this amendment bill is very long. Now, the bill was passed some time ago, and afterwards the industry found that there were still a lot of issues to be addressed. We expressed our views to the relevant authority. They were very understanding, and they agreed on communicating with us. For example, how about the divisions of trade and skill sets, skill levels, etc. So they have taken care of the needs of workers, and they are trying to make sure that more workers can be registered. And also for contractors, the authority has talked with them about the problems they encounter on work sites. So this has been going on for many years. And I know that many stakeholders have also been involved in the process. There have been a number of consultation sessions, and there were a lot of communication. So up to now, we think things have been satisfactory and balance has been struck. And just now, Mr. Chow said that we must attach importance to the livelihood of workers. And now for trade registration, it will be further be divided into trade division. We think that is very good. And we also think that there should be grandfathering arrangements. Now, we should respect the experience of these senior workers. And also, there are a lot of senior workers in our industry. If trade tests is to be conducted for all these workers, it will cost a lot of resources. As for emergency works and other areas, there has also been communication between the industry and the government. So I would like to commend the Development Bureau. From the very beginning, they have adopted a very open attitude. They have been listening to our views. So we think that the amendment bill is very satisfactory. Of course, not everything is resolved with this, and there are still some issues to be addressed in the next stage, but I think so far it is very satisfactory. Next, Mr. David Leung, Hong Kong Construction Association. 4 minutes, please. The Hong Kong Construction Association welcomes this amendment. The amended bill will set out clearer guidelines, and the registration procedure as well as trade division will be simplified so that it will be easier for the contractors and the developers to understand the skill sets of their workers. And upon the implementation of the phase 2 prohibition, we can have a better analysis of the worker skills, and we can have more data and information. Such data and information can be given to the Construction Industry Council so that the CIC can have a better understanding of the manpower in the industry, and it can formulate more efficient and long-term policy for the construction industry. We think that a lot of publicity has been carried out already, and now workers have a better understanding of the registration procedures. And there has also been flexibility for the registration of senior workers. Workers are given enough time to register. In the transitional period, some facilitating measures have been in place. Although this will mean heavier workload for major contractors, but we think that having clear rules is very good. We hope that the Construction Workers Registration Board can analyze the data it collects in due course, and a better projection can be made. Then this is our view. Next, Mr. Chen Sam Choi, organizer of Construction Site Workers General Union. As for the Construction Workers Registration Amendment Bill 2014, our union has the following views. On the whole, we agree to the amendments because this can reduce the trouble spot to the construction workers when they register. But there are several points we would like to make. We think that for supervisors, more work should be done. And for master skilled worker, they can supervise 4 workers. So this kind of arrangement should be improved. As for tests, we think that there should be a stringent system so that abuse can be prevented. And we also hope that the registration board can add a trade division for different types of construction site vehicles. Skill tests should be set up for people operating this kind of vehicles. Now there are only rules for concrete mixers. So why other vehicles are not included? Our union thinks that the present trade division is not good enough. There are many skills that are subject to tests now. And for concrete mixers, they have to go to construction sites and go to a lot of places. The drivers must have training, they must have green card, and they must be subject to certain rules. So we hope that members can seriously consider this. That is, the qualification and levels of workers must be packed with their pay. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to attract a new blood to our industry. So having a master license is not serving any purpose if the pay is not packed. Next, Mr. Chin Kai-ming, Vice Chairman of the Federation of Hong Kong Electrical and Mechanical Industries Trade Unions. Now, we support the Construction Workers Registration Amendment Bill 2014 because the amendment bill has taken into consideration many of our views. That is, the views of trade unions, associations, etc. We have been discussing this for a number of years. And we are very concerned about the registration of senior workers in our industry. We are very happy to see that the bill has already incorporated many of our views and suggestions, and this would better meet the needs of the workers. Of course, we have to ensure the quality of construction work, but now under the new legislation, many workers can register. We welcome this. And we hope that publicity can be stepped up and more efficient means should be employed so that workers will be able to understand registration requirements better. In particular, many of the more senior workers are not that educated. So I hope that there can be more publicity and promotion so that these workers can register early. And I hope that with the passage of this bill, the livelihood of our workers can be assured, and the construction industry can develop in a more disciplined manner. Thank you. Next, Mr. Lee Kai-yun, Chairman of the Contractors Authorized Signatory Association. Good morning, Chairman, members. We mainly represent contractors in their daily operations. The Development Bureau talked to us about this amendment bill, and we are very, very worried. Lately, there are a lot of projects in Hong Kong, and many of our workers are quite old, and there is a shortage of labor in Hong Kong. We are very worried about different types of projects. Now, for large-scale projects, maybe they are better structured, and they can carry out more administrative work. But for small-scale works, the contractors have limited resources. If the bill is to be enforced, these smaller contractors will be seriously affected. Now, the Development Bureau has been working very hard. We are very, very happy to see that, and the Bureau has been talking to us, and sometimes they talk late into the night, and they really understand our worries. Now, some parts of the bill have been changed to address our concerns. So we think the Development Bureau has really made a very good effort, and it has communicated well with the industry. So I support the amendment bill. This is what I want to say, Chairman. Thank you. Next, Mr. Mak Tak Ching, representative of Labour Party. The Labour Party has communicated with the CTU and the trade unions or labor unions under it. And these labor unions have been involved in the consultations and briefing sessions of the bill. And thus, labor unions understand very well the needs of the construction workers. They have expressed their views. So our party has talked to the labor unions. We have also accepted the views of these labor unions. Now, first of all, the government's proposed amendment is that for general workers, they can work under the supervision and instruction of a registered semi-skilled worker or a registered skilled worker. So less experienced workers can work under experienced workers. But there are no concrete rules. Does it mean that one skilled worker can supervise many workers under him? Now, this is the major concern of the labor unions. Because safety is very important. We are talking about construction safety. So if skilled workers and semi-skilled workers are to supervise less experienced workers, would there be a safety problem? And it seems that the construction safety problem is shifted onto the semi-skilled workers and skilled workers, and they will be held liable. This is not right. So there should be a limit on numbers. So the Labour Party and the Labour unions would like to put forward the suggestion that is for skilled workers, they should be able to supervise and instruct general workers. And the general workers should be within their sites. The ceiling should be for general workers. So you have to see these workers when you are at the construction site. Well, you see that worker, it doesn't mean that you really know what that worker is doing. So you have to pay attention to the number of workers supervised.
Besides, the Labour Party proposes that for vehicles with additional equipment such as the concrete mixers and so on and so forth, they should be incorporated into the list of trades and should also be subject to examination or assessment to ensure quality and safety. Some union members reacted very strongly to this. Well, Mr. Chen mentioned the construction vehicles, they've never been respected. And for mixers, we have seen the types of accidents. Last year, a mixer overturned. Fortunately, there were no other vehicles or pedestrians present. You may say that this is about traffic and transport. In fact, it is also an industrial issue. And for grandfathering of senior workers, there must be assessment. Lastly, you have all the different levels of skills should be reflected by different levels of pay. Thank you. Last, Mr. Long Wai-hong, the Director of CIC. Thank you. The CIC is a platform for the industry. We have members from associations and unions. We have discussed this, and we've maintained very close liaison with the government. We have done a number of preparation work. Now, for the registration of senior workers, we have set up a working or a committee for the assessment of senior workers. We will see how we can help senior workers to be registered under different skills to become registered skilled workers. Now, if they I will also arrange assessment for them to confirm their skills so that they can also be registered as skilled workers. What about exempted works under the remaining prohibition phase, such as minor works and other things? Well, under the Construction Workers Registration Board of the CIC, we are discussing codes of practice to see how a clear and simple approach that complies with the legislation can be used in drafting guidelines or codes of practice for workers. We'll also discuss with workers as regards updating the registration system to a time with the introduction of the bill. We have designed a new system for worker registration so as to collect information on the attendance records of workers. And as the Federation of Hong Kong Industries Trade Unions has mentioned, we have set a working group for the promotion of the bill, and so as to assist the industry to understand the content. And before phase 2 prohibition starts, employees, employers, and contractors can have good understanding of the bill so that the system can be implemented smoothly. Thank you very much. 8 representatives from deputations have spoken. May I remind you that if you have yet to give us your written submissions, please write down your name on the on your speaking note, and before you leave, you can leave it with our staff for our information. In fact, many of you have already given us written submissions. I will now invite the administration to respond. Thank you. Yes, just a few points in response. I thank the deputations for telling us their views this morning. We have heard support as well as some views on the bill. First, to change the idea of trade to skills. From what I've heard this morning, this is welcomed by the industry. I think the response is positive. Second, registration for senior workers. We have this arrangement under the bill already, and I understand the CIC is preparing for this, so that in 2 years' time, we can do something for the registration of senior workers. Regarding instructions and supervision, can that only be undertaken by semi-skilled workers and skilled workers? Under the current legislation, both can instruct and supervise other workers. There are views that perhaps semi-skilled workers should not be asked to do this. In phase 2 prohibition, when phase 2 prohibition is implemented, or is it really appropriate to tighten the restriction? We believe that semi-skilled workers have a reasonable level of skills, so perhaps they can supervise and instruct other workers. And tightening the regime now may not be the best approach. And should the number of workers to be supervised be no more than 4 by 1 skilled worker, we'll leave it to the CIC in making codes of practice to say what is reasonable. This is not just about the number of workers. For instance, should all workers be in the sight of workers? If one is on the first floor, the other is on the 5th floor, will it be within the sight of the supervising skilled workers? And it is proposed that there should be a stringent skill test for senior workers. We do believe that this should be put in place, and we are considering the details. We believe the level should be of a reasonable level. If it is too lax, then it is against our objective. But if it is going to be very detailed, then it may not be. Now, we are talking about a senior worker who has been in the trade for more than 10 years. And if you require him to go through a very detailed test, then I think we should leave it to the CIC to decide. Regarding drivers of construction vehicles, should it be counted as one trade? Well, under the current legislation, drivers can work in a construction worker. His registration as a heavy vehicle driver, that is okay. Should the driving of construction vehicle be a separate trade? We have discussed with the CIC. There is a mechanism for adding a trade. For instance, CIC will consider whether it is a construction trade specific trade, whether the skill can be assessed. For For drivers of construction lorries, now these drivers need driving licenses, but there aren't any skills that can be tested specifically. The only requirement is a driving license, so this is one consideration. For other vehicles with mechanical installation, such as cranes and mixers, there is an element of operation. We can test the driver in the operation of the crane, for instance, and therefore it can become a trade. But for the driver of a construction vehicle, for carrying debris or construction materials, I don't think the requirements are that specific. So we should leave it to the CIC mechanism on the addition of trades. It is not directly related to the trade, to the bill. Regarding packing, to make it pack with wages, I don't think this is directly related because the bill is about a registration system and it is difficult to attach a wage scale to this matter. We're pleased that after a discussion with the monoworks contractors, we can leave it to the next stage for consideration of contracts worth over $10 million. So for large scale works, we have disagreed with the Monoworks Contractors Association that this will be dealt with at a later stage. Thank you. We have about half an hour for discussion with deputations. All right. Each member can have 6 minutes, including questions and answers. Ms. Sit-Ho. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, representatives from the trade, for meeting us this morning. Now, I would like to ask Mr. Chen Sam-Choi. According to your submission, one registered skilled worker should not be asked to supervise too many workers. And according to Mr. Chen from the administration, it will be decided by the CIC in making codes of practice. All right, I'd like to ask Mr. Chen, what are the trades that you think that the number of workers supervised should not be over 4? And then another question is for the CIC. What are your bases in deciding on the number of workers a skilled worker can supervise? Thank you. Mr. Chen Sam-Choi. Of course, there are different types of skills or trades, so it is hard to list out all the trades. But there may be a skilled worker sitting in the office, and he said that he is responsible for supervising the 40-odd workers at work. Well, then people will. Now, if you really expect the skilled worker to supervise other workers at work, then they should be on the same floor. You should not expect a skilled worker to sit in his office to supervise all miscellaneous workers working on different floors. Now, for scaffolding, it's okay. They are on the 4th and 5th floors, but the skilled worker certainly cannot supervise just sitting in his office. Thank you. CIC has no preconception as to how it can be done. We will invite representatives from associations and also unions. Ms. Sinho asked what trades would need that. Well, safety is our prime consideration. We'll consider the safety and also the work environment of particular trade. Now, if we are talking about plastering and paving of tiles, it may be okay, but we'll also consider the whether the workers are visible to the supervising skilled workers. So it depends on the trades concerned on sort of work environment.
I would like to ask the government for the skilled worker and semi-skilled workers who are supervisors, would they be held liable if you give this responsibility to them? That is, if one skilled workers is asked to supervise dozens of workers, or even the skilled workers sitting in the office, then should the skilled worker be held responsible? And if there is no difference in pay, but they have to shoulder that responsibility, then what's the meaning of the system? Now, for our existing ordinance and the amended bill, the instructor and the supervisor would not be held liable. Now, when the contractor or the employer arranges for a general worker for a designated skill work, then he should arrange a skilled worker or semi-skilled worker to be the supervisor. Now, there must be a meaning. Now, you're talking about a supervisor, so the supervisor should teach the new worker the skills, and then the supervisor would have to ensure safety. But of course, there is a construction site safety officer. However, the supervisor would be closer to the new worker. And Mr. Cham Son-choi said that there is no difference in pay. However, this responsibility is heavier. But there are no rules governing the new responsibilities, and there is no difference in pay. So who would be willing to do that? So in the system, you have these new measures, but it's not that meaningful. Well, the industry's view is that, well, for these workers, because they have to shoulder more responsibilities, so should they be paid more? But the secretary said that if there is an accident, and if an accident happened to the new worker, then the supervisor would not be held liable. Now, if the skilled worker or semi-skilled worker are asked to supervise many people, and if the general workers are in the sight of the supervisor, then the responsibility does not lie on the skilled or semi-skilled worker. It lies with the contractor. Yes, that's fair. For the skilled worker, and its ratio with the general workers is decided by the employer. So the responsibility should lie with the management of the construction site. So for actual operation, there are three parties: the employer, the contractor, and the workers. And so they all have different responsibilities. And this bill is not taking care of all these. And also for the packing with pay is also not under this bill. Yes, I understand these are not under this bill, but we should also be concerned about this. Yes, we know that the industry is also very concerned about all this. For example, the supervisor, the CIC's working group will be looking at that. We are all concerned about this. So does any representative would like to say anything? Mr. Chow Lun Kiu, with regard to instruction and supervision, we have talked to the Development Bureau as well as trade unions and chambers. In the initial implementation, we did not agree to fix the number of workers to be supervised because many workers were not registered at that time. Maybe we have to sit down and talk about this again. So at the moment, I do not think we should impose a limit on the number of workers because a lot of workers still have not taken the test. They still haven't got their license. And this is still a transitional period. As for instructors and supervisors, we have always insisted that the supervisors and the instructors should not be held out liable because we are paid the same. Why should we shoulder more responsibilities? Mr. Lee Kai-yun, about the question just now, is a management problem. Now, Contractors and Authorized Signatory Association is about the management of sites. So we are very concerned about quality and safety. And for this bill, it's mainly about quality. Actually, we really resist this arrangement. For construction sites, we have supervisors looking at quality. For a skilled worker, how many general workers should be under him? The supervisors should try to strike a balance. We do not have enough workers and our workers are getting old. So we need to strike a balance. We have to ensure the stability of quality and we need to complete our works in time. So we have been talking to the Development Bureau and now we can accept this arrangement. Yes, this will mean a heavier burden for the industry. However, the most important thing is to complete the works in time. And now we are in a transitional period, and a few years down the road, quality can be enhanced and the problems can be resolved. Yes, thank you. Now we are all very concerned about this, and Mr. Ng San-wah wants to say something. Well, with regard to responsibility, actually we've talked about that many times. The responsibility should lie with the management. There's no dispute about it. We never thought that the responsibility should be put on the worker. As for capping the number of workers, I agree with Mr. Chow. Now, there are only a limited number of workers that are registered as skilled workers or semi-skilled workers, about half of them only. Now, some of them are already have the skill, but he's not taken a test yet or he's not registered yet. So if we impose a cap on the number of workers to be instructed and supervised, then we may not have enough skilled workers to act as supervisors. So at the CIC, we can continue to follow up on this. And when we have more registered skilled workers, we can make an adjustment. Next, Mr. Poon Siu Ping. Thank you, Chairman. I would like to thank the deputations for attending today's hearing and thank them, and I want to thank them for their views. Now, most of them support the amendment to the bill, but of course some deputations have different views on minor points. My question is similar to Ms. Ho's question. With regard to the registration of senior workers, some deputations say that it should be simple and balanced, and some other deputations say that it should be strict. Well, the CIC is looking at the assessment arrangement. So, what is the progress? And about the trucks carrying construction and demolition materials. we were told that he's just an ordinary driver. He doesn't need to have special skills. Now, for these drivers, they have to go into construction sites to dump the C&D materials, etc. And the CIC is thinking whether they should be added as a trade. So there will be new trades in the future. So would this trades be added, or the number of trades is fixed already in the law? Now, for the present ordinance, the trade division is not fixed in stone. The Construction Workers Registration Board can increase the number of trades. Now, of course, if the industry evolves, this may happen. So there is a mechanism. It doesn't mean that our list of trade is exhaustive. So if you add a number of trades or delete number of trades, you don't have to amend the bill, right? Yes. So is the CIC looking at this? Mr. Leung Wai-hung. Thank you. Just now, the Deputy Secretary has already answered some of the questions. As for the trades, does it mean that the list of trade is exhaustive now? No, that's not the case. It can be changed. The Deputy Secretary said that there are certain criteria. Now we have 6 criteria if a new trade is to be added. If the industry puts new trade forward to us, then we will look at this suggested trade, and then we will talk to the Development Bureau and see if a new trade will be added. So you don't have to worry that this is already cast in stone. This actually is very flexible. As for the registration arrangement for senior workers, the CIC has a subcommittee looking at this. And in the law, we have already set out Class 1 and Class 2 senior workers. As to whether the registration should be lenient or not, we would consult the industry. Now, we want to convenience the senior workers. Now, they have been working in the industry for over 10 years. Now, if they remain in the industry, it means that they already have reached a certain level of skill. So we also hope that they can be registered. So we are still working on this. We have also been liaising closely with labor unions. We want to help the workers, and at the same time, we want to ensure quality. Thank you. Any follow-up, Mr. Poon? How about the construction site lorry drivers? So at the moment, you are not adding this new trade? According to the criteria, well, these people are not working in a specific trade in the construction sites. They are just driving the trucks. But of course, if the labor unions want to discuss this more, we are willing to do so. Mr. Chung Kwa-pen, would like to thank the deputations for coming to today's hearing. Am I glad that the trade unions and labor unions all support the amendment bill? I have also met with some trade union representatives. Some of them were very unhappy with the original draft of the amendment bill, but I'm happy that now they have forged consensus with the Development Bureau. So it shows that sitting down and talk is good. So for the developments of Northeast New Territories, maybe the Development Bureau should also do so. I have a question for Mr. Lee Kai-yun. Just now, Mr. Lee said that there's a shortage of manpower in the industry and the workers are aging. So what's the exact shortage? And are we training enough young people to join the industry? Do you want the CIC and the Employment Retraining Board to do more things so that the manpower shortage problem in your industry can be resolved? Because we have now many infrastructural projects. It seems there is a shortage of workers.
And the second question is for Mr. Cheng Sam Choi. He would like wage to be packed to experience. So I'd like to know what should, according to you, what should be the best approach? Manpower, resources, Mr. Leong? Mr. Lee, thank you. We have regular meetings with the CIC, and very often they have got statistics. If I remember correctly, we have about 80,000 regular workers in Hong Kong. Regarding the question of trade, yes, we're very concerned about this. If the trade division is too fine, because the construction workflow starts from infrastructure to the superstructure, and then the renovation, so on and so forth. There are bound to be times when labor is tight. We have discussed with CIC why have we accepted the Bureau's proposal that one skilled worker should be able to supervise a few semi-skilled workers and general workers, because you cannot expect training and registration can nurture skilled workers, because you can never catch up with the requirements. Take the CIC as an example. The training has to be adjusted according to changes and projected demand of trades in the coming half year. So we need time to ease this tension, and there must be comprehensive training. We are very worried about implementation of phase 2 prohibition, because we want to buy some time. Fortunately, the Development Bureau has accepted our proposal. For projects costing less than $10 million, the bill or the provisions will apply to these projects later. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Lee talked about 80,000 active workers. Let me supplement. 70 to 80,000 workers who can registered and go into a construction site using a card. But in sites where there is some decoration and maintenance and repair works, there is no such machine. We believe we have over 200,000 active workers. In fact, the Development Bureau may want to supplement. And then the CIC has got a model for projecting manpower demand based on our knowledge of the number of projects and the market, and also the number of workers required. We have a projection. It is important, and such information has been uploaded to our website, and we make reference to this information when training workers. The CIC has done a lot in recent years. We have in-house training, and that may not be enough. So together with contractors and subcontractors, we have joint training schemes for training workers, because CIC is limited in terms of venues and manpower resources. So we cooperate with contractors and subcontractors with a view to training more manpower for the market. After training, they are semi-skilled workers. They need practice in construction sites for 2 to 3 years before they can become skilled workers. Of course, they have to go through a test. We have done a lot in publicity. You might have seen APIs on TV and on radio programs. We have also produced a TV drama series to attract new blood. We offer training places, but we must have young people who are interested. We need to improve the image of the construction sector. In the past, people thought that the construction sector was rather dirty, and we have to gradually improve our image. We need more cooperation with the trade to attract more new blood. This morning at the cruise terminal, we've organized a competition on skills to showcase to the public that the construction industry has a future, and we can attract parents and young people to pay more attention to this job prospect. With less than 10 minutes left, Mr. Chong Kwok-peng asked about the relationship between wage and work experience. We understand that the bill has nothing to do with wages, but it is a good opportunity for communication. Mr. Chen Sam-choi, please, can you respond? A very good question. The registration board has been a failure because most workers are registered as miscellaneous workers only. If there is no ceiling for the number of workers a skilled worker can supervise, then most workers would just be general workers. If one leads 100 or 200, then the system is meaningless. So you won't have more semi-skilled workers and skilled workers, because workers worry that they have to continuously attend professional training and upgrading. Can I ask a very quick question? Please be very brief. Time is up. There are over 300,000 registered workers, whereas there are only 200,000 odd working in construction sites. So what about the balance? Are they just general workers that cannot work in a specific trade? Because according to reports, we are 10 or 20,000 workers short. But if we have so many registered workers, why can't we unleash their full potential? We have 300,000 registered workers, but only 200,000 out of them are active. They are working in different areas, not just construction sites. Some members would like to ask questions for the second round. Can we have any brief response from anyone? Mr. Leung? Yes, 200,000 or more active workers. Even when we had the Rose Garden program, there was some unemployment. People who who were registered might not be engaged in this trade. Even for engineers or clerical staff working in construction sites to facilitate their access into construction sites, they might also have got the card, so the figure is a bit inflated. Some workers are not very active. They may just want to work a couple of days a week. So there can be various scenarios. How many registered active workers do we have? About 1/3 of them are registered in a specific trade, and 1/3 of them are general workers. In fact, these so-called general workers are engaged in specific trades in construction sites. We hope that they can acquire occupational recognition. And as for wages, I hope that in the long term, their skills can be reflected in their wages. But of course, the CIC cannot interfere in such employment matters. Thank you. Ms. Sitho asking for the second time a very simple question. I'd like to ask the administration. He said that for dumper trucks, no special skills are required for driving such trucks, so it is not regarded as a trade. Of course, the Transport Department would test the candidate for his skills, driving skills, but mainly on ordinary roads. Mr. Chen mentioned large-scale projects, including a situation in landfills. Now, for Southeast NT, it is a big landfill. When people dump construction waste there, the roads are very different from ordinary roads. Can an ordinary dumper truck driver operate in a special road environment like landfills is also a consideration. Please consider whether you can include this driving skill in your list of trades. Thank you. Under the registration board, we have criteria for the addition of new trades. There are 6. First, the trade must satisfy the definition of construction work under this bill. Secondly, the scope of the trade can be clearly defined and described, and this skill or this trade is not covered in existing trades. In other words, it must be really new, and there must be a certain skill level that can be clearly established and be subject to a test. And then the level of skill in that trade can affect the quality of works. And lastly, there should be an assessment platform or mechanism for assessing the skills involved in that trade. So when we consider a new trade, we must consider all these factors. It should be discussed in the board. So it is not just for the CIC to decide. We want to seek a consensus among the trade as well. Let me put it the other way around. For driving on our roads, the authority is the Transport Department. But in construction sites and landfills, I think a different kind of knowledge is involved. I'd like to follow up on Mr. Leung Wai-hung's criteria. So you will discuss with the industry with the addition of new trades. Now, if the criteria are satisfied, you can add a new trade without amending the legislation. All right, we have to end this part in 3 minutes' time. Mr. Kwok Wai Keung, we all agree that specific trades should be recognized and registered, because theoretically speaking, this will help to enhance the earnings of workers. But if each trade is paid differently, how are you going to help the streaming of workers. For instance, if bar bending is a high-paid job, then many people will become bartenders. But if all young people become bar benders, then what about the other trades, carpentry, plastering, painting? Who will work in these trades? All people are now bar benders. Then what can you do about that? And I hope that Mr. Chow from the General Union can tell us the situation in the market. Well, please be very brief because time is almost up. Mr. Kwok, we did talk about wages in an earlier discussion, but this is not relevant to the bill. No, I'm not talking about wages. I talk about the streaming of workers. Yes, you said that for trades that are the higher paid workers will work in these trades. I think it is for the market to adjust itself. All right, what about the streaming of workers? Well, ideally speaking, all skilled workers should be equally paid. But have you considered that the scaffolding worker who died last year at work was 74 years old? Will you allow such workers to work? If yes, well, a skilled worker that is registered and experienced, should we allow them to work? Of course, we'll talk about a retirement system. If all who are over 65 cannot work in construction site, it is okay. Now, if you say it must be $1,700 for a skilled worker, this is an ideal. If in the future workers were registered in a particular trade, only such workers can be allowed that are registered in a particular trade can work in that trade. Yes, it is a good idea, but I think we're talking about a compromise. For decades, there has been no registration of workers. Why do we want this? Why have this been stalled for 10 years? This is a compromise. Yes, we expect more from young and new workers, but we have to be caring to our old workers.
So time is almost up, and I would like to thank the deputations for coming. We had a very useful discussion just now. Our next session is the meeting with council members and the administration. So if the deputations want to listen to the remainder of the meeting, you can go to the public gallery. Otherwise, you may leave. So would the administration provide a reply in writing concerning the deputation's views after the meeting to us? Thanks. So after exchanging name cards, would the members come back to the room? We will have to continue with the meeting.
好，咁我哋即係繼續我哋嘅會議嚇。好，大家就位先啦嚇。好，我哋係跟我哋5月20號。
After the 20th of May's meeting, we had some matters to follow. Let us look at the paper CB 11583/04 and 05. The administration has responded to our questions raised at a meeting on the 20th of May 2014. And the responses are set out on the paper 1583/05. So would the Deputy Secretary take us through this paper, and members can ask questions afterwards. I would like to ask my colleague, Mr. Lau, to brief members on the paper. Thank you. I would like to take members through the paper. First is about the client, the principal contractor, subcontractor, the registered skilled and general worker, whether they would have new obligations. The Construction Workers Registration Ordinance was passed in 2004 and is to regulate employer, principal contractors, subcontractors, etc. It is set out that they have the following duties. Construction workers must register as a general worker or a skilled or semi-skilled worker according to his trade and skill level. And he must be a relevant trade registered worker or works under the instruction and supervision of the relevant trade registered worker. As for employer of workers, he must employ qualified registered construction workers to carry out construction work. As for principal contractor, he must employ qualified registered construction workers to carry out on construction works, and he must install card reading device in construction sites, and he must maintain a register for workers without carrying registration cards, and he must submit workers' attendance record to the registrar at regular intervals. Yes, the employer and the worker providing instruction and supervision are not regulated. Currently, only Phase 1 prohibition under CWRO was implemented. That is forbidding unregistered construction workers from carrying out construction workers on construction sites. That is, we do not implement the designated workers for designated skills at the moment. Upon commencement of the bill, the existing obligations and duties for principal contractor, employer of workers, and worker under the CWRO will basically remain unchanged. That includes designated workers for designated skills. And we require the principal contractor to submit accurate daily attendance record of workers to facilitate effective manpower planning and training, and also for instruction and supervision arrangement that must be reasonable, and we will impose obligations on both the principal contractor and employer of workers. By doing so, we can inform the workers of the relevant arrangements to protect them from committing an offense inadvertently. As for the second question, it's about arrangements for exemption and staged implementation. Members requested to illustrate with examples. 1. The small-scale construction workers with value not exceeding $50,000 to be exempted from the remaining phase of prohibition. 2. The works under a construction contract with a total value of all construction operations not exceeding $10 million to be regulated under the remaining phase of prohibition at a later date. And 3. How to differentiate the above two types of works. Now, first, about the small-scale construction works with value not exceeding $50,000. And we will follow these two principles. First, the concerned work is a discrete work item that is isolated from other construction works by location. And second, the value of the concerned work does not exceed $50,000, including value of all relevant works that are contiguous irrespective of whether the works are constructed in stages. At the next stage, we will implement designated workers for designated skills, and this will be applicable. Second, works under a construction contract with total value of all construction operations not exceeding $10 million. So this will start in the next phase. Now, to facilitate gradual adoption by stakeholders, we propose to adopt a phased approach whereby minor construction works will be regulated at a later stage. That is, if the total value of the operation does not exceed $10 million, it will be regulated later. We don't have a timetable yet. As for Phase 1, designated workers for designated skills has commenced. If it has commenced, then we will look at the next stage. As for example, to differentiate two types of works. I would like to set it here and also have a PowerPoint to help illustration. Now, if there is a project that is about the upgrading works for a slope, so this is for part A, and in the contract, there is also a reconstruction of a catch pit outside the above slope. So for A and B, if the total value, that is the whole contract, does not exceed $10 million, then all the works under construction contract will be regulated under the remaining phase of prohibition at a later stage. If the total cost or total value of A and B exceeds $10 million, the works under the construction contract will be regulated upon implementation of the remaining phase of prohibition. However, for reconstructing the catch pits, because it is isolated and the value does not exceed $50,000, then the catch pits can be exempted. To facilitate members' understanding, I have another PowerPoint slide to help me illustrate. As for designated workers for designated works, well, first we will have to look at the value of the contract. If it's less than $10 million, then this will be regulated at a later stage. If it is a term contract for maintenance or is Class 1 or under Class 1 or Class 2 minor works, then it will be regulated at a later stage. If it does not fall under these three classes, then it will be regulated in phase 1. If there are small-scale construction works, if it's an emergency work or the project's value does not exceed $50,000, or is a designated work on our list, or if it does not exceed the exemption amounts, then there will be an exemption. That is, when we implement the first phase of prohibition, there will not be a regulation. This will only be done in the second stage. The next concern is that members actually asked this question in Schedule 1. How are trades added or deleted? Just now we also talked about this. The Construction Workers Registration Board has members and representatives from many stakeholders organizations, and if a new trade is to be added, we will discuss with the relevant stakeholders. We will stick to the 6 criteria we mentioned just now, and also a broad consultation will be conducted among the stakeholders so that we can reach a consensus. And then we'll put together tests for the trade. Then we will talk to the Development Bureau, and we will do Gazetto and then add the trade. So for both adding trades and deleting trades, we will do the same thing. This is the same mechanism. You can find all the details in our website. Fourth is about trade divisions that are exempted. Well, for small-scale works, there is a list of trade divisions that would be exempted. We don't just look at safety and laws. The list is about trade divisions. Certain trade divisions are exempted. And We will look at it from safety perspective and whether it's covered by other legislations. And you can see the list in Annex A of the paper. That is the trade divisions that are exempted. Members would also like to know about this. That is, they want a list of trade divisions of which the registration requirements are solely the qualification obtained under other legislations. Now, if a worker has obtained a qualification under other pieces of legislation, then he can make an application to us for registration as a registered skilled worker of the relevant trade division upon obtaining the required qualification. Members also requested us to provide the respective passing rates of the assessment for the specified training course before and after the contents have been simplified. The passing rates of the specified training course before and after simplification of the course assessment are about 90% and about 99% respectively. As registered skilled workers professional have already possessed not less than 6 years working experience before 29th December 2005 in the relevant trade, it is reasonable for the passing rate to be relatively high. Although the passing rate of the STC before simplification was already quite high, the attendance rate was low. The industry indicated that the reason for the low attendance rates might be because it took about 1 full day to complete the STC, including about half day for the course and about half day for a practical test. In order to encourage more registered skilled workers professional to take the STC to register as registered skilled workers, upon review by a task force formed under the CWRB comprising members from the relevant industry stakeholders, the course assessment was simplified from a practical test to a written test since December 2012, and it reduces the course duration in a test. Since then, the attendance rate of the STC has increased.
Still, there are provisional RSW who have not taken the STC before expiry of their registrations, and quite a number of senior workers have yet to be registered as an RSWP. So this indicates that the current arrangement is not very satisfactory. Well, in the course of formulating the proposed amendments to CWRO through thorough discussions, the industry considers it necessary to include as one of senior worker registration arrangement. Thank you. All right, any questions, please? Mr. Pan? I'd like to further understand that exemption for minor works projects. Now, for instance, if this toilet, the installation of each toilet is $50,000, so will exemption be granted? Now, if I have bidded for the contracts of this building and the total value is over $10 million. But if I break it down to the works on individual toilets and is $50,000 each, can I enjoy an exemption? Let's take the example of that slopes works project. Well, the project must not be linked with another project. It must be independent. If on the same street there are other works, then of course the slope works can be independent. But if we are talking about the same building, that means I cannot further break down a contract covering several items into individual items. No. We have this 50,000 arrangement. If the contract is a maintenance contract worth over $10 million, and for each item, it is rather independent, and for a long period of time, each project is around $50,000. So, which criterion would you adopt? Well, if the works at each location is no more than $50,000, well, it is an exemption which will always apply. But if it is maintenance works, well, for fixed-term maintenance contracts, even if the total value is over $10 billion, it would only be regulated under the remaining phase of prohibition. That doesn't mean that it will be exempted forever. It's just that it is exempted at this stage. Yes. Any further questions to the response? Now, as mentioned, that for new trades to be added, the Secretary for Development can gazette, and no amendment, no legislative amendment is needed. Yes, to amend Schedule 1, there will be gazettal procedures for negative vetting by LegCo. That means LegCo can still vet this. Yes. There must be amendment to the schedule. If LegCo has any comments, they can raise it. It is not a full legislative amendment exercise. Thank you. All right. Do we have further questions on this paper? If not, we go on to the next paper. Our legal advisor's letter to the administration and its reply CB 11613/1314 and (03). Our assistant legal advisor wrote to the administration on the 12th of June 2014 to ask a number of drafting issues. And on the 25th of June, the government has provided a reply. So can you please brief us on the paper? Thank you. I'll give the floor to my colleague, Mr. Lau. Thank you. Yes, I will briefly explain our response to you. The legal advisor of LegCo asked a number of issues. First relates to paragraph 2 of his letter. He would like us to set out in a table to facilitate members' understanding of the designated trades under the existing Schedule 1 and the respective changes in the registration qualification certificate of requirement. So we have already prepared the table. Please refer to Annex 1 for members' information. Members can refer to it. And then paragraph 3 of the legal advisor's paper is about the order of the list of trades and trade divisions in the revised Schedule 1 in both Chinese and English. Now, we have discussed with the industry stakeholders, and we proposed to group the trade divisions of similar nature to form trades. Since most of the construction workers are reading Chinese instead of English, we propose to list the trades and trade divisions in the revised Schedule 1 according to the number of strokes of the Chinese characters for easy reference. The order of the trades and trade divisions in the English version will be identical to that of the Chinese version for easy reference, cross-reference. Third point relates to paragraph 4 of the legal advisor's paper about working across trade divisions. We have added 3A, new Section 3 and Schedule 1 in the bill to allow working across trade divisions in designated skills. The legal advisor asked why there can't be working across trade divisions under the same trade. It's because we have had a very detailed study and consultation with the trade in making up this proposal, and we have and we have conducted a very detailed and comprehensive consultation, and we reviewed the various trade divisions before finalizing the proposed new Section 3A and Schedule 1A. Although the trade divisions within the trade are of similar nature, they do not necessarily satisfy the specified conditions for working across trade divisions. For instance, we'll consider whether the skills are similar, whether the trade divisions are similar, and whether they're working in similar work environment. The trade divisions within the same trade might be similar in nature. They do not necessarily satisfy the conditions I just set out. So there may not always be arrangements for working across trade divisions. The fifth point, paragraph 5A of the letter, this is about a registration requirement for senior workers. We propose that upon passage of the bill, if a worker has an aggregate of not less than 10 years of relevant experience on an individual trade division, then we will arrange a test for him. $10 years is chosen to be the threshold for definition of a senior worker. This may not apply to trade divisions with special trade requirements. For instance, an electrician, he must possess other kinds of registration. Still, we have a provisional registration arrangement for those who have not less than 6 years of relevant experience before the 29th of December 2005. Then he can register as a registered skilled worker. And passing the course assessment, he can be a properly registered skilled worker. So we believe this arrangement is relatively more favorable to senior workers. So we propose to classify senior workers into two groups. First, for those who satisfy the requirement under the provisional requirements, they can directly register to be a skilled workers. For those who have 10 years of experience that cannot pass the requirements for provisional registration, he has to pass a test before he can be registered as a skilled worker. Paragraph 5B of the legal advisor's letter asking for details of the assessment fee. So as I said, a task force has been set up with representatives from trade associations and unions. I believe they have come to a consensus preliminarily, and before the passage of the bill, the arrangements can be finalized. Paragraph 5C. Asking whether there can be explicit provision in the bill that injury or absence from Hong Kong can be a valid reason for extension of the application deadline. Now, if a worker under Section 45A of the current ordinance, a worker cannot attend the last specified training course, relevant experience, or trade test before expiry of his provisional registration due to illness or injury, is regarded as a specified ground for extension of provisional registration, because usually the assessment can be completed within a day. So illness or injury is a valid reason, and the worker can use it as a reason for extending the provisional registration. However, for new Section 40A for senior workers, they have 18 months to apply for registration. I think the reasons for the possible causes for failing to make an application within the period could be much more complicated and wide-ranging, and therefore we believe it is more preferable not to stipulate expressly and specifically the grounds in the proposed new section 40A7. Next, para 6 of the legal advisor's letter, asking why the code of practice would only be issued in CIC's website. This is because the website is a useful platform to disseminate latest information to different industry stakeholders. For instance, on the website, we have information on all the training courses and skill assessments for all workers. So we propose to specify in the section 63B that the code of practice must be published on the CIC website. As said, a task force has been set up to let stakeholders of the industry to understand the remaining phase of prohibition and also for formulating relevant guidelines and introducing the contents of the code of practice. Para 7A of the legal advisor's letter is about new section 18A, which is about allowing an authorized officer to require a person concerned in any construction work to provide information. The legal advisor would like us to know why an authorized officer should be given that power, and also wants us to give example whether a person concerned in a construction worker may include a project manager who is responsible for site management. According to Section 18 of the current ordinance, an authorized officer may require any person found on the site to provide information.
Well, for example, a person concerned in the construction work may include a project manager who is responsible for site management, or an employee of the principal contractor or subcontractor who is working at a headquarter office outside construction site. However, the person that has the information may not be on the site, so it's difficult to collect this kind of information. So in the proposed new section 18A, we authorize this person, no matter whether he's on the site or off the site, to provide information that may enable the officer to identify the principal contractor for the site or the employer of the workers working on the site. A person concerned in the construction work may include a project manager who is responsible for site management, or an employee of the principal contractor or subcontractor who is working at the headquarter office outside the construction site. So he needs to provide information to the authorized officer so that he can carry out investigation. And under 18A2, an authorized person can only make the requirement when he reasonably believes that the person has such information. Next, paragraph 8 of the legal advisor's letter. It's about the proposed new section 63A(3), that is to authorize the Secretary for Development to exempt certain people. The legal advisor wants to know why the exemption is quite broad. There are now some trade divisions, and it is required that the workers to be registered under other ordinances first. For example, electrical fitter, it should be registered under electricity ordinance. We have added the new section 63A(3). It is to address this issue that that is, workers that are exempted under other ordinances. He can also enjoy exemption under our new bill. For example, electrical fitter, his registration requirements are under electricity ordinance. And now some workers are exempted from registration under this relevant legislation. For example, some direct employees of a power company are exempted from registration under the electricity ordinance for carrying out some electrical installation works for the company. Upon implementation of the remaining phase of prohibition, these workers cannot fulfill the registration requirements under the CWRO and therefore can no longer carry out the relevant works, which would be contrary to our legislative intention. Now, if some workers are enjoying exemption under ordinances, they can also enjoy the same exemption under this bill. So for the proposed 63A(3), this is not clearly stated. However, when we put together the exemption clauses, we will state it. And this will also be submitted to the Legislative Council for negative vetting. So we will do it this way. And other than electricity fitter, there are also other trade divisions that would face the same problem. And we have listed them in the paper. For example, gas installer, escalator mechanic, and lift mechanic. Next, the legal advisor wants us to give a draft of the exemption regulation to the Bills Committee for scrutiny. We have been putting that together. Now, for the exemption principles and arrangements, they are very technical, and if they are to be turned into rules, they have to be fine-tuned. So we expect that it may take some time to complete the drafting of the exemption regulation. As the exemption regulation will be issued before the implementation of the remaining phase of prohibition, that is 2 years after commencement of the bill, we will assign priority to commence the bill early so that workers, including senior workers, could start registration as skilled workers at the soonest. The next item is paragraph 10 of the legal advisor's letter. It says that whether the Schedule 3 should be revised so that transitional arrangements can be made relating to decisions pending review or appeal. Now, we will do that. That is, we will include the transitional provisions, and we'll introduce these provisions by way of CSA. Lastly is paragraph 11 in the legal advisor's letter is the commencement of the bill. It says that the Secretary for Development can extend the period of 24 months under clause 1(3). That is, phase 2 will start in 24 months, and he asked whether public consultation will be conducted in respect of such extension. Well, after detailed discussion and extensive consultation with the industry, we propose to implement the remaining phase of prohibition at a preset commencement date of 2 years after commencement of the bill in order to set a clear target for the industry to get prepared and geared to the implementation. On the other hand, we also propose to incorporate provisions so that Secretary for Development may extend the commencement date by notice to be published in the Gazette if necessary, in order to cope with any unforeseen situation, such as the number of senior workers turns out to be much higher than the estimated number, leading to a scenario whereby not all the registration could be completed before the commencement date. If such possible situation materializes, we will discuss in details with the CIC and widely consult the industry stakeholders as necessary before submitting the proposal to the Secretary for Development for consideration and gazetto. Chairman, this is my report. Well, this is a very detailed report, and it involves the details of different provisions. When we do the clause-by-clause examination, we will look at these explanations again. I would like to ask the legal advisor, what do you think of the administration's response? Are you satisfied, or do you want to point out any questions? Thank you, Chairman, and I would like to thank the government for its very detailed response. With regard to Schedule 1, I would like to make some observation. Now, in Schedule 1, there are 139 items, and now they are arranged in accordance with the strokes of the first Chinese characters. But I understand that there are non-Chinese construction workers now, and they cannot read Chinese. So if they want to make reference to the schedule, because there are too many items in the table, so how would you assist them to look up the trade division it wants to find? There are 139 trade divisions, but they are categorized under 30-odd groups. So first of all, they can look at the trade first. Now, for example, if it's related to a certain trade, then they should look for the trade first, and then they would look for a trade division. It would be easier. For example, if I work in woodwork, we have a industry, we have a trade section that's called woodworker, so it would be easier for the worker to find the relevant trade division. Yes, I think this order is more logical. That is, first you have the trade, and then you have the trade divisions. But of course, if you want to set it out in alphabetical order in English, that is also a way. But now most of the workers are Chinese, so now you are using Chinese characters as the base for the order. So I would like to ask members if they have any questions. Ms. Seto, I would like to follow up on the legal advisor's question. Well, there are many minority workers that are working on construction sites, and they told us that it's very difficult for them to read the relevant Chinese text, so they want translation in their language. Now you are putting together new rules. So have you translated the relevant information into the ethnic minorities' languages? As for the amendment bill, of course, we will have both English and Chinese. As for other ethnic minority languages, we will talk to the CIC. Now, they have a task force that's responsible for publicity. So that task force will be looking at this. We will not be translating all the documents, but some of the documents will be translated into ethnic minorities' languages. I think the Labor Department has experiences, and you should liaise with the Labor Department as well as the Equal Opportunities Commission. The Labor Department now has help desks, so maybe they can talk to the EM workers verbally. Some EM workers do not know either Chinese or English, so please pay attention to this. Now, before the implementation of the new measures, the relevant information should be disseminated to the EM workers. Yes, I have personal experience in this regard, because for domestic helpers, I've seen some pamphlets. For them, I've seen those pamphlets in Filipino, in Malaysian, and in other EM languages. Of course, we have only 2 official languages in Hong Kong, that's English and Chinese. But for guidelines and pamphlets of this type, you should also target the EMs because they really have to understand the situation more. And I'm sure the CIC task force would be considering this. This is a very good suggestion. Any other member would like to ask questions concerning the government's responses? If not, Chairman. Yes, Mr. Lee Chuk-yan. No? Another member? Well, some deputations are very concerned about this. For the senior workers, is there a very clear provision stating that there will be grandfathering arrangements for them? Or are there some kind of organizations that can disseminate this message to them? Just now at the deputation session, we also talked about the registration problems faced by senior workers. Some think it should be simpler, and some other things it should be more stringent. Can the Deputy Secretary answer this question? Now, about the registration arrangement for senior workers, the work will be done by the Construction Workers Registration Board under the CIC. And they cannot do all the work, so they are working and they are cooperating with some labor unions. The labor unions will help to verify the experiences of such senior workers. And now this is underway.
Are they clear in the legal provisions? It is for the board, and it's also the administrative work. Further questions? No, I hope that the provisions can be clearly shown to them for their follow-up. When we look at the bill clause by clause, when we look at the provisions about the registration board, we can then look at the wording very clearly. Any other questions? Our meeting is scheduled for 12:45. We still have 1 hour 15 minutes. If members have no more questions on the policies, we can start a clause-by-clause scrutiny of the bill. And I believe, as we look at the clauses, there will be further issues identified. And members can also bring out points of concern to you as we reach the relevant clauses. All right. Now, this bill is not urgent, but I still would believe it is the right time for us to start the clause-by-clause scrutiny. Okay, then perhaps we should start. Please refer to the marked-up copy. I suggest we use the Chinese text for our scrutiny. And if members have views on the English text, feel free to raise them. But I think we can leave it to our legal advisor to look at possible points in the English text. So we will use the Chinese text for the basis of our scrutiny. Yes, administration, please lead us in the clause-by-clause scrutiny. Can we start now? You want to start with the long title of the bill? Yes, please. Chairman. Because the marked-up copy hasn't got part 1. I suggest we use the blue bill for clause-by-clause scrutiny of Part 1 because there are important issues in Part 1. Part 1 sets out the title of the bill. This is relatively simple, and subclause 1(2) empowers the Secretary for Development to publish a notice in the Gazette to appoint the date for the commencement of the bill. And subclause 3 is about sections that would come into operation on the expiry of the period of 24 months beginning on the date on which Section 2 comes into operation. So subclauses 3 and 4 of Clause 1, Part 1 is about these. All right, then for Part 1, please refer to the blue bill. Blue bill. Preliminary, okay? Subclause 2 authorizes the Secretary for Development to publish in the Gazette by notice to appoint the day when the ordinance comes into effect. So the 139 trade divisions in Schedule 1 can start to come into operation. And then there is also extension of the validity period of registration card from 3 to 5 years. All these can be done after gazetted by the Secretary for Development. The accurate attendance information of workers can also be available. And sections 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 26, and 36, well, they will come into operation at the expiry of the period of 24 months, beginning on the day on which Section 2 comes into operation. This is about Phase 2, okay? I don't know whether members understand this. Please tell us the page number. Well, when we go to sections 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 26, and 36, we can then look at the clauses in details. But these are provisions on designated trades, workers for designated trades. Well, I think this was covered in our previous discussion. Yes, this is 24 months grace period. And then subclause 4, the Secretary for Development may by notice publish in the Gazette extend the period. That is, upon expiry of the 24 months, if there are unforeseeable reasons, the Secretary for Development may publish a notice in the Gazette to further extend the period. That is, in our brief, we talked about the 24 months period and also the need to extend it. Ms. Sit-Ho. We have got previous bills where the commencement date was not covered in the bill. Rather, the relevant Secretary of Bureau was authorized to publish a notice in the Gazette to appoint a date. But usually it will come back to the Council for our scrutiny. Does that mean that in this case you don't have to come back and seek out approval? Our thinking is, after the passage of the bill, there is only one step left, and that is gazetted by the Secretary for Development. Well, then it can't be. This is very different from our previous practice, and I think the administration is abusing its powers. They are administrative measures that we all support. And we should keep track of the progress of such arrangements. Now, you have a grandfathering arrangement. You want to extend that period, or if you think that the progress is very smooth, you want to advance the commencement date. In the past, you always came back to seek our approval. Now you're asking us to sign you a blank check, and then you can cash in anytime you like. What if we think in the future that the period should or should not be extended? LegCo can have no say. Is my understanding correct? Secretary, perhaps we invite our colleague from the DFJ to explain the procedures to members. Mr. Chen, thank you. There are 2 notices in the Gazette for commencement of the bill. First, after the passage of the bill, the Secretary for Development will use a notice in the Gazette to appoint the commencement date. And the second notice is, if that 24 months have to be extended, then another notice in the Gazette will be published to extend the period. That is subsidiary legislation. It has to be subject to the positive vetting of the Council. It is a kind of subsidiary legislation. Even if we want to extend that 24 periods, LegCo's approval is needed. All right. That being the case, it's okay. No matter how much we agree to your principles, when it comes to a commencement date, you should come back and discuss with us. By then, 24 months down the road, you may not have the same group of legislators here. It may already be the new term of council. But you must get, I hope all members of this council will agree with me that you must come back and discuss with the council. There must be proper vetting by the council before the bill can come into effect. So you are happy now? Now I'm happy with the DOJ's explanation. But what the Deputy Secretary said gave us some alarm. All right. So LegCo will, or the notice will be subject to the council's negative vetting, right? While this is not a major amendment to the principal ordinance, there will be a negative vetting process. Yes, for the schedule. Yes, and that goes the same for the extension of the 24-month period. Okay. Please go on, Secretary. If members have no further points on Part 1, we can go to the marked-up copy. Starting from interpretation. All right, we'll now go to the marked-up copy, the white bundle of paper. I think it's easier here is the addition of the amended ordinance. Okay. Next page. Okay, construction. These are important provisions relating to construction site and construction work. We have to amend the 2 terms. May I advise members to look at the part about construction work first. So we have a minor amendment here. We propose that with the introduction of the new regime, there should be some exemptions. And we are talking about Class 3 minor works under the Minor Works Ordinance. No, please don't move so quickly. Even for term maintenance contract, you have amended some of the things. Term contract for maintenance, yes, we have deleted the following. When the we've deleted the following phrases as required by the body in writing from time to time. It's just a technical amendment. So it will cover both written and verbal requirements. Okay, please go on. Construction work and construction site. I will first talk about construction work before I return to the term construction site, and you will understand the intention of our amendment better. Right, first let's take a look at construction work. We have got paragraphs A, 1, 2, 3, 4, and B. We have to amend because we have to exempt Class 3 minor works under the minor works regulation. To affect this amendment, we have to make some amendments here. We have to take away Class 3 minor works here. So on the right-hand side, we have the amendments. We say excluding the following things 1, 2, 3. In respect of which the Buildings Ordinance 1, 2, 3 applies.
We have just added B1, but this is not new. As for B2 and 3, they are new. Class 3 minor works as defined by Section 22C of the Minor Works Regulation. As for Class 3 minor works, they are very small-scale works. For example, clothes drying rank, air conditioner rank, etc. So all these would not be regulated by Phase 2 prohibition. So that's why we have to add B2 and B3. And we have to look at these together. And we have to make this amendment. For Class 3 minor works, yes, we understand that. However, for 1 and 2, that will be implemented in phases, right? So how will you do that? Well, when we talk about Part 3 or Part 2, we will look at that again. So this is mainly about this. So if you look at A, 1, 2, 3, 4, now we have added 5 and 6. And we are just restructuring it. For example, 6. Any maintenance work carried out under a term contract for maintenance of any specified structure owned by or otherwise belonging to a public body or a specified body. And that's already under the existing C. So this is just a structural change. The major changes are with B2 and 3. This is construction work. So for the changes relating to construction work, any views, members? If not, then we can look at construction site. As for the definition of construction site, it means a place where construction work is or is to be carried out. In accordance with the present provisions, there is this definition. Now, if a construction worker has submitted certain documents to the building authority, or he has submitted a certificate then stating that the work has been finished, then the place will not be regarded as construction sites anymore. And because we have amended the definitions of construction work just now, that is A1 to 4 is now extended to A1 to 6, and we have also revised B. So for construction sites, when we make cross-reference, we have to make amendments too. The meaning has not changed. It is just because we have amended the definition of construction work. For example, in the past, we said A or B. Now it's no longer A or B, so we have to add this new clause because it refers to a certain clause under construction work, and that has already been amended. This is just a technical amendment. I think members have no comments on this. Please continue. If members have no other questions, then we can move on to other interpretations. We have deleted designated trade, and now we use designated trade divisions. So all the trade are now revised to trade divisions, and that is in line with our amendments to Schedule 1. Now, when you look at Schedule 1, you can see that there's no more designated trade in Schedule 1. It's all changed to designated trade division. Thank you. So for pages 4 and 5, they are the same. That's about designated trade and designated trade division. So for semi-skilled, skilled workers, you have added division after trade. Yes, all trades are changed to trade divisions. Okay, no comments. Page 6 and page 7, there are some changes here. As for page 7, because of the changes we mentioned above, and we have also made reference to the minor works regulation, so here we must add the definition of minor works regulation. And we will also be adding an exemption regulation where we have to exempt certain people or certain types of people. They are not subject to the designated workers for designated skills arrangement. And we have also added the council website because the guidelines will be put on the council website. Okay, let's move on to page 8. A whole new clause is added, that is 2B. As for 2B, this is an important part of the amendment bill. Is to specify that public bodies and designated bodies will actually involve several types of work. They will, just now I mentioned several types of work, and at a later stage, we will implement the relevant measures. Let us look at the slides again. Then we can understand why we have to be. Not this slide. Next, please. There are 2 tables on left-hand side. It's okay, we can look at this one. You can see 1, 2, 3 here. Please pay attention to 3. Implementation of the remaining phase of prohibition. I want to talk about the latter stage. Okay, 24 months. After that, we will have designated workers for designated skills, but something will be implemented later. For example, $10 million and Class 1, Class 2 minor works, term contract. Those will be implemented at a later stage. So for 2B1 ABCD, that's all the scenarios. For 2B1A, construction work falling within the meaning of paragraph A6 of the definition of construction work. If you look at that, under A1 of construction work, it means any maintenance work carried out under a term contract for maintenance of any specified structure owned by or otherwise belonging to a public body or a specified body. B, Class 1 minor works. C, Class 2 minor works. For Class 3 works, they are completely exempted. And for Class 1 minor works, the implementation date will be later. As for 2B1D, we have taken reference from other provisions. So it's about $10 million project, and this will be implemented later. Sorry, I want to use another slide to illustrate this 4 types of works. This is about 2B1 ABCD. Yes, look at the upper left-hand corner. It will be regulated at a later stage. It covers several types of works. For example, less than $10 million. Second, term contract for maintenance, and Class 1 and 2 minor works. All this will be regulated at a later stage. And these are set out under 2B1 ABCD. I think this will be clearer.
Okay, 係
啦。咁至於
As for 2B2, they refer back to the relevant section, so we have to set it out this way. Okay, members, any comments? Legal advisor. Thank you, Chairman. For the new 2B1, it says that for the following works, the Secretary can set a certain date by way of notice published in the Gazette. So for the notice, is it about a commencement date or is it of another nature? It's about commencement date. Well, we say that this will be regulated at a later stage. So after implementing the remaining phase of prohibition for a while. Now, we have not fixed the dates yet, but after discussing with the industry, we will start regulating these 4 types of works, and then this will be set out in the notice. So there will be a commencement date notice, and the provisions will be included in the notice. This will be done later. Maybe the DFJ can explain about this. Mr. Chen. Yes, there will be a notice on commencement date, and if it has to be extended beyond 24 months, there will be another notice. All this will be decided on by the Secretary. They are all legally binding, and will have to go through a negative scrutiny by the Legislative Council. Well, this may be done a few years down the road. So we will look at the enforcement situation, and these may be regulated in the future, but we do not know the date yet. But this will be the future arrangement. So with regard to this part, we do not have any comments. If not, let's move on to page 10. Page 10 is mainly about 3(2). Now, because we are now changing trade into trade divisions, so we have to amend this clause. Now we are simplifying it.
And in Schedule 1, we have 4 these types of registered, skilled, and semi-skilled workers. Since we have amended Schedule 1, the amendments will be simpler. And this bill is about prohibition against unregistered construction workers carrying out on construction sites construction work. So unless we have workers falling under one of these 4 categories working there, otherwise he commits an offense. So he has to be one of these 4 types: a registered skilled worker, a registered skilled worker professional, a registered semi-skilled worker, or semi-skilled worker professional. Okay. Next, page 11. Okay, 3A. 3A. Working across designated trade divisions involving similar skills. Yes, the skills are similar, straddling different trade divisions. So this is a new section. If a worker is engaged in plastering or tile laying, but he can also work in marble work, then if he is a registered skilled worker, then he can work across these 2 trade divisions, and he would not be in breach of the ordinance. But we only allowed a skilled worker to work across designated trade divisions. So this is an outcome of our discussion of the trade to ensure safety. That doesn't mean that he is a registered skilled worker of that trade division. Certainly not. It's just allowed. If, for instance, he is not engaged in his particular trade division on that day, but he can also work in other trade divisions. So in Schedule 1, you can see the similar skills, and he is allowed to work in another trade division. But then he cannot engage in supervising work of this trade division. You are very correct, Chairman. Only a skilled worker registered in that particular trade division can supervise and instruct workers in that trade division. Okay, any questions on this? Page 12. Construction work carried out under instruction and supervision of registered skilled or semi-skilled worker. Because we've changed trade to trade division, we must have this amendment. In Section 4 of the original ordinance, there is already such exemptions. So we like to keep it for both semi-skilled and skilled workers, though we have changed the heading for this section for clarity's sake. Section 4, 3, 2, 3 are now scrapped. So when we read Schedule 1, well, Schedule 1 after reorganization is simpler than what it was in the past. So with the technical amendment, we don't need subsection 3 here. The instruction and supervision arrangements are just the same as in the original ordinance. The heading of 4, I support the new heading because it is clearer now, and you understand what is. This is better than exemptions from provisions under Section 3. Now, the new heading is much friendly to people who really need to refer to this section. Okay, I agree to this amendment. And for sub-clauses 1 and 2, do members have any questions? This morning, there was quite a lot of discussion with deputations. Okay, so we're clear. It's clear. Page 13, new 4A. It is a new section, 4A. It is called Measures for Identification of Relevant Skilled Workers. The trade is concerned as to what is meant by a relevant, reasonable measure. Yes, so 4A will address this concern. For A is about is about, now let's take a look at subsection 2. The employer of the registered worker or the principal contractor for the construction site must implement reasonable measures to ensure that the registered worker can identify the reference skilled worker as a registered skilled worker. This contractor must implement reasonable measures to ensure that the relevant skilled workers or semi-skilled workers will not inadvertently break the law. And those measures under subsection 3 must be brought to the attention of the registered worker. When you discussed with the trade or the CIC in particular, did you discuss what are the reasonable measures for the reference of contractors? Yes, this will be listed in the Code of Conduct or Code of Practice. And we have thought about the preliminary arrangements, such as the use of safety helmets. For instance, the company can say that those wearing this color of safety helmet are semi-skilled workers or skilled workers engaged in supervision and instruction of other workers. So other workers can then comfortably work knowing that there is such a measure. But there should not be only one measure allowed. For instance, can the wearing of a badge be acceptable? This is to facilitate the workers to identify the supervising and instructing workers. Regarding the ratio of supervisor to supervising workers, well, it depends on individual trades. For some trades, the ratio can be bigger, and for some trades, the workers and the supervising worker can be on different levels. Yes, I do agree that this cannot be covered in the ordinance. We will leave it to the Code of Practice and guidelines by the CIC. Okay, subsection 4 of 4 capital letter A. Sanction. Liable to a fine at level 3. What is fine at level 3? The maximum fine is $10,000 under this level. $10,000 is the maximum fine. Do you have any comments on 4A? All right. I'd like to seek a clarification. The employer and the principal contractor have both committed an offense. I'd like to know whether they will be jointly held liable, or can one party defend himself by saying that he has taken reasonable measures. However, the other party, such as the employer or the principal contractor, has not followed those measures, leading to contravention. So, can one of the two be exonerated? Let you know whether once there is a contravention, both will be held jointly liable. Yes. There are two different persons. We'll talk about the employer and the principal contractor. There is a possibility that one is convicted and the other is acquitted. Is possible. But 4A4, the contravention is about identification. This is not about employing unqualified or unregistered workers for a particular trade. And that's why the fine is so light. You have to understand that this offense is about measures for identification. Mr. Tony Jie? No, I just want to sort this out. The use of a certain way of identification. The two parties should have communication. If there are two ways of identification, there will be confusion. So it is about the liability. For instance, the wearing of a helmet or the wearing of a badge can be an identification measure. The two may not conflict with one another, but in other cases they may. Have you let the industry understand that the employer must communicate with the principal contractor when it is in the guidelines? Well, will the employer and the principal contractor follow the same guidelines? I don't know. Because of the nature of the venue or the type of the trade division, perhaps the contractor or the employer may work with one contractor in this area and other contractor in another area, and the employer may respect the decision of individual contractors. So we're not saying that all employers and contractors must use the same mode of identification. I'm sure at site the employer will discuss with the principal contractor now, or the principal contractor may discuss with some contractors, and they may use different mode of identification.
Well, this is actually very simple. However, on a construction site, there are different types of work, so we want to see a unified approach. Otherwise, another contractor may use some other colors, and this contractor would use another spectrum of colors, and that will be very confusing. Actually, it's something very simple. Maybe he uses orange color to represent a certain thing, and another contractor uses orange for another meaning, and the site is huge, so it may get very confusing. So this would involve a coordination guideline. The principal contractor, should he be responsible for this so that the identification can be unified? Because this may involve a contravention of the law. So if there is no guideline, then there may be problems, because many people are involved in the industry, and also various subcontractors may also be working on the same site. Yes, you may say that it's not very difficult to come up with all sorts of guidelines, but I hope that there can be a simple guideline highlighting the most important points, so that they can make reference to the guideline and do not come up with their own system. Otherwise, when they work on construction site A, there will be no problem, but on construction site B, there will be problems. So I hope that in a code of practice or guidelines, they can come up with some solutions after listening to our views. The government also has the responsibility to coordinate and promote safety measures. Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen, well, I have a question. Now, for construction workers that are coming from outside, imported construction workers, how do we verify their past experiences? Because we don't know where they come from, and it's very difficult to verify their experiences overseas. As for imported workers, yes, we've thought about that. However, under the present law, the Construction Workers Registration Board will be responsible for registration. So before an imported worker arrives in Hong Kong, can his skill levels and experiences be verified? Now, if we know that a batch of workers are coming from a certain overseas country, so do they have a trade test center which we can trust? So we are looking at this. But this is not easy, because for skill tests, they are different in different places. And sometimes we don't know where the workers come from. For example, some Filipino workers may come to work in Hong Kong, but they may come from different provinces in the Philippines. For example, some tunnel workers may be imported to Hong Kong, but these tunnel workers could go to a lot of places in the world to work, and they may not have been registered in the Philippines. So we are trying to find out if there are test centers overseas that we can trust. Well, otherwise they are subject to the regulation of this ordinance. So what if they fake their qualification? Now you are saying in this amendment bill that the employer will be held liable. So can the employer use this as a defense? The worker just faked his qualification, so whom should be held responsible? Now, if the worker fakes his qualification and the employer believes that the worker is registered, actually he's not. Well, actually this is not confined to imported worker. Any worker can fake his qualification. So in the law we have a defense for the employer. My colleague will explain about this. Mr. Lau? Yes, in the bill we have mentioned this. If the contractor has adopted measures to ensure the system is in place, if he has a monitoring system, then if the worker uses a fake qualification or card, then this can be a defense for the contractor, and also the worker may be held liable. As the Deputy Secretary just now, no matter whether it's an imported worker or a local worker, they will be handled in the same manner. Next, Mr. Kwok Wai Keung. Thank you, Chairman. First, about this. This is about identification. I was listening all along, and actually there is no specific guideline. Now, you want to give freedom to the contractors, but sometimes the contractors don't really know what the Development Bureau wants to do. Now, you want them to put on helmets, to put on armbands, but exactly what you want them to do. Otherwise, this will give rise to disputes in the future. They may say that they are putting on a badge, so why is that not acceptable? So I don't think you should give them so much flexibility. Otherwise, there will be a lot of disputes in the future. As for the workers themselves, they also have to know if you have set out the guidelines clearly, then the workers can follow. Well, some sites are small and some sites are big. They may get a wrong helmet. So if the worker wears a wrong color helmet, should his supervisor be penalized? So a clear guideline is very important. Everyone can follow that guideline. If you give them too much flexibility, that will give rise to confusion. As for imported workers, I think there are a lot of problems. Now, the employer would make an application to import such workers. The employer should have the responsibility to verify the workers' experiences. The government shouldn't try to help them so much. You are saying that you want to find out whether there's such a department in the Philippines. You don't have to do that. It's the employer's responsibility. And these imported workers would have to be verified in Hong Kong. And if they fail the verification, then the employer should buy them an air tickets and send them away. If anyone cheats, no matter whether he is a local worker or an imported worker, of course the cheater should be penalized. Now, for imported workers, well, if it is so difficult to verify their skills or experience, I think you should import less workers from overseas. Well, the guideline is not to be interpreted by the employer. We would formulate a guideline, and the employers would have to follow the guideline. The CIC and the industry are talking about the guideline, and at the end of the day, we will put together a code of practice. That is why we have 4A, that is measures for identification of relevant skilled worker. But when it comes to actual operation, it will be covered by the guideline or the code of practice. Ms. Sitho? I hope the administration and the CIC can talk about this. That is, the identification should be unified because there are so many freelance workers in the industry. Workers may work on different construction sites every day, so they may mix up the color of the helmets. Yes, we all understand that when workers enter a site, they have to wear a helmet. So if to unify the colors of the helmets, that would be very helpful. And I'm also very concerned about the EM. Well, under 4A bracket 2, you say that the principal contractor should take reasonable measures to ensure that a registered worker can identify the relevant skilled worker as a registered skilled worker for the trade division. So you should remind the relevant personnel when they inform the workers, they should also make sure that the EM workers are aware of the new measures. Yes, noted. We should unify the identification measures and make sure that the EM workers are aware of the new measures. Well, we have to understand that the construction workers registration ordinance is not new. It has been implemented for a number of years, and now we're just amending it. And we are talking about designated workers with designated skills. So in the industry, I think a lot of experiences have been accumulated, but your comments are also valuable, and I'm sure the government will take members' views into consideration. So with regard to 4.8, if there are no more comments, let's move on. 5. At the bottom of page 13. I think we still have a little time and we can continue. 5. because we made a change to clauses 1, 2, 3, 4. We didn't have 2, 3, 4. So now we change it to section 3, bracket 1 or bracket 2. If you look at section 3, prohibition against unregistered construction workers carrying out on construction sites construction work, we have deleted subsections 3 and 4. So that's why we are making this change. And this will repeat in some other areas of the bill. Okay, any comments? No, please go on. The next amendment is under section 6. We have added 1A. This is about offenses in relation to prohibitions under section 3 and 4, and this is a defense. If a person has not registered and is carrying out construction work, but that it was reasonable for the person to believe that the person was allowed to carry out the construction work, then this can be regarded as the defense. So A is the person was allowed to carry out the construction work concerned under section 4. Section 4 is about instruction and supervision. So that is an exemption clause.
And 1AB, as we said, we would provide an exemption provision covering a few areas, including the following. Now, if it is an exempted emergency work or other works, please refer to the slide for exemption works. The exemption provision would cover these areas. 1AB allows us to make exemption regulations. All right, emergency work, minor works, value below $10,000, $50,000, so on and so forth. Okay. All right. 6.4b. There is no change in the penalty. A person who's convicted is liable to fine at level 5. What does level 5 means? We will check and confirm the figure and let you know. All right, it doesn't matter. We can go on. 50,000. Okay, $50,000. Page 15. We have amended B and C due to amendments to Schedule 1. So this is similar to a previous amendment because we have added trade divisions. We will have 4 categories: a registered skilled worker, a registered skilled worker professional, a skilled semi-skilled worker, and a registered semi-skilled worker professional. So we have to replace 8, B, and C with new provisions. And this is related to 3. Page 16, the amendment is just the same. I think page 15 and 16 are okay. Okay. Page 17, is a reference, is a cross-reference amendment. When we go to section 40, section 34235, you understand, we have amended the equivalent qualifications of the assessment board. Okay, we'll discuss that when we go to section 40. Page 18. Page 18 will allow an authorized officer of CIC to enter a construction site, and his powers are listed in section 18. We are amending the heading here to make it clearer, to read other powers of authorized officers entering construction site. Okay, this amendment seeks to make the heading clearer. Page 19, some deletions. Again, when an authorized person enters a construction site, when he needs to seek information from personnel in the site, it will be rather inconvenient if the person can only provide the information in the construction site. So we will delete F to allow the person to provide the to seek information from these persons, say in the office or headquarters. This will be clearer when we read this together with new section 18A on page 20. And 18.2 and 18.1F will be irrelevant. Then why don't we go to section 18A? Yes, this is a new section. This will make clear the power of an authorized officer to obtain information. If there is or has been a contravention of requirement of this ordinance, then an authorized officer may require a person concerned to provide information. Or if the officer reasonably suspects that there is or has been a contravention, then he can also require a person concerned to provide information to him. Yes. And 18A to B requires that the authorized officer must reasonably believe that the person has the information before he can require that person to provide the information. He cannot just ask anybody, any other person, to give him the information unless he reasonably believes that the letter has the information, and the person who refuses to provide the information contravenes this ordinance. With a new 18A, section 2 of the original 18 can be scrapped. Yes. All right. If 18.2 is deleted, then will 18 have to be reorganized? No. Because in 18A there is still 1 and 2. No. In 18A, new section 18A follows section 18, right? Yes. But in section 18, you have brackets 1, 2, 3, 4 originally. With subsection 2 deleted, what will happen to 3 and 4? The DFJ can help us to say whether renumbering is needed. The usual practice is not to renumber the subsections for 2 reasons. First, for the sake of future research, once the numbering is rearranged, it would be difficult for our future research. And in other places, there may be mention of 18.3 and 4. So our practice is not to renumber the subsections. So 18.2 will be missing in the future. Yes. All right. Do we have any comments on pages 9, 18, 19, 20? Powers of authorized person in a construction site to obtain information. No comments? Okay, we complete section 28. Yes, page 21. We have new section 28, use of levy. Here it says that a levy received or recovered by the council under this part becomes part of the funds and property of the CIC. And the CIC may use a levy for any of its purpose for effective use of resources. Mr. Lau, this is a corresponding amendment or consequential amendment of the CIC ordinance on the use of levy. Thank you. No, this is about levies. I understand that there is no amendment to the levy. But can you please brief us on the current situation of levies? 28A says that the levy recovered or received by the council can be used in for any of its purposes. We have not changed the rate and the mode of collection of levy. In page 172 of the marked up copy, there is a corresponding amendment to the CIC ordinance. In 21A, we've added received or. So a levy collected would include those collected under CWRO. All right, do members have any comments on new section 28A? Page 22 is simple. Please go on. Yes, addition of trade divisions. 31E F 1 to F. Page 24. Yes, addition of the word trade divisions. All right, we have not much time left. I suggest we pause here for the day. We will stop at page 24 of the marked up copy. Next time we can start with section 40, page 25 of the marked up copy. The Secretariat has suggested a number of dates for us, mainly after the summer recess. so that the BC can take a summer break. The Secretariat has proposed 2 dates, 10:45 to 12:45 on the 3rd of October, or 2:30 to 4:30 on the 6th of October, a Monday. So I think we can decide later or now. Do members have suggestions? Should it be the morning of the 3rd of October, Chairman, or the Secretariat, or our legal advisor? Can you envisage the number of meetings we still need to complete our scrutiny? Now for the later clauses, including the schedule, if members have a lot of comments, then you don't know how much longer we're going to take, and the bill itself is thick. It is hard to estimate now, but I'm sure we can do it before the end of this year. Perhaps the sittings are more regular and normal in October and November. If members are agreeable, why don't we meet on the 3rd of October? All right, we have to consult other members. So let's wait for members to choose between the 2 days. All right, the time is already the scheduled time for us to close the meeting. Meeting adjourned.